I've got my first 35mm lens more than 10 years ago, but it wasn't my best and favorite lens. By far not my favorite lens. And now I know why. Looking at my photographs today, I can see that I was using the lens wrongly. I would use very open apertures and try to capture a single object, basically using it for portraits in a very similar way that I would use my other lenses. And when I didn't shoot a portrait or a single subject, the result was simply not good. Everything just looked unpleasant, unorganized. I didn't know how to deal with it. And that makes sense why this lens was my less favorite. Why would you take a 35mm lens when you can use a 7200 or 50mm to capture a portrait, and the portrait will be probably better. So that lens was just sitting in the bag and collecting dust until I sold it. Only several years later, when I started to get interested in wider scenes and street photography, I decided to pick the lens back. But this time it was different. This time I sticked and I tried to learn it and understand it and get the better results, because it is one of the most popular lenses out there for street and travel photography. So if other people can use it, I should try too. And that decision is what made this lens one of my favorite lenses for today. And that's why it should be your favorite lens as well. So what did I learn? The first thing that I learned with that lens is that context is king. That photographing a single subject is simply not enough. You don't want to go tight with that lens. You actually want to take more of the scene. You want to take your subject and you want to take the surroundings to give more context and to make for the viewer more interesting to look at that photograph. Basically try to tell a story by including the surroundings and show your viewer how your object is interacting with whatever is around him. And this is exactly the reason why this lens is so good for street and travel photography, because it pushes you to show more. You are not just focused on the singular subject that you would be with a longer focal length. On 35mm, you either go really close or you just give more context. So the first one is that context is king. The second one, I just learned to get closer. The photos from a normal distance just wasn't good enough. If you don't get closer, the person just gets lost in the frame. And another very important thing that I learned is that you need to take advantage of all of the compositional elements. You cannot just go out and focus on simplicity, because it just doesn't gonna cut with that lens. The field of view of 35mm, it gives you space, and that space needs to be filled with something. And if you're not filling it with your main object, you have to fill it with additional compositional elements, something that will lead towards your main object, something that will help you to tell the story, something that will give more context. Learning composition actually starts from that lens. You're not doing much of composition on a longer focal length. You will have your subject, you will have him turning to one direction, to another direction, kind of like try to put him proportionally in the frame, but the compositions are quite simple. The 35mm pushes you to work in a more complex way. Whatever is there, you can use layers, you can use lines, you can use subframing, you can play with geometry, play with different angles. You can utilize negative space. Space is a thing. An empty space in the photograph also emphasizes something, so you need to understand how much space you should have in that image. So any compositional elements that you can think of, you should try and implement it when you're using the 35mm lens. It's not just a single object lens. You need to put more. Another thing that the 35mm teach me is to see balance. If you put a single person in the middle of horizontal frame, it will usually leave quite a lot of space around him. And that space will give you that feeling of emptiness. If that person is moving a little bit to one side of the frame, the other side will feel empty and unbalanced. So you need to have some element there. So you would usually start paying more attention to how to balance your image. The idea of filling the frame is not getting very close to someone and filling that frame with one subject. It means that we need to fill the frame with things that are helping our viewer to get more context about the photograph. Another thing that is quite obvious with 35mm lenses, it is not like with other lenses. You have more space and you need to manage it effectively. If you don't manage it effectively, you can have one side of the story in one part of the image and the other part of the image will basically unused. So you need to think what will be in the other one. Actually, all this frame that we have, it needs to be full with content. Another thing that is quite obvious with 35mm lenses, a lot of them are coming with very low apertures. 35mm with 1.8 or 1.4 or 1.2 are not rarity nowadays. And if you have that kind of aperture, it's good to use it in a low light situation. So out indoors, candlelight, street lights, you can really take advantage of these apertures. Yes, the photography will not be the same and not so complex like if you're shooting during daytime with close aperture, but still you can create quite stunning images with that, and it gives you opportunities to shoot more, to be more outside and enjoy the photography in different hours of the day. And the main beauty of the 35mm lens is it's just so versatile. You can I don't think that there is another lens that allows you to take portraits, to take landscape, to take architecture pictures, food photography or whatever. Almost every genre of photography can utilize the 35mm in an efficient way. So if you are also frustrated with the 35mm lens, don't get on a hurry to sell it. Try it. Just put it on your camera for a month and just push yourself to shoot in the ways I described earlier. And you will see the result. The result will start coming very quickly. And if you want really to master it, use it for a few years. 1, 2, 3 years. If you can use that lens exclusively, you will become extremely good at composition. You will always stand in the right place and you will be very good with finding the right angle that will suit your subject the best way. I hope you like the video and you know what to do. Take care.